Yo, what is going on YouTube? I am Germ here. Today I want to talk about a TSM story. Obviously they are always a really popular team. They're a team that has a ton of fans and people are always going to care about a lot, even when they kind of suck. Obviously, TSM is coming off a last place or tied for ninth, or maybe they got ninth based off a tiebreaker, whatever TSM fans want to say, finish in the 2022 spring split. So they'll be looking to bounce back strong in the summer. And I think a lot of people, pretty much everybody, expects that they will be better in the summer. I don't think that's that crazy of a take. I don't think that's that hot of a take. I think at the end of spring split, they already, we're not necessarily playing terribly anymore. They were playing like they could beat, the lower teams in the LCS pretty consistently and even pull off an upset every once in a while. And I think they got better this offseason. I do think Maple should be significantly better than Kaido, and other than that, the team didn't really change. Obviously, we don't know if Shenny or Mia is going to be the support, but if there's a competition between the two, it seems like the better one should end up playing. But today's update does revolve around that mid lane. This is Maple, and he is somewhat of a question mark. Now, I do think, lucky for him, Kaido was not exactly a world beater last year, and then Takeover coming in after him was maybe a little bit of an improvement, but overall still not amazing. The expectations, the bar is set pretty low, and again, TSM wasn't that great in the spring. Their mid lane was their weakest position in the spring. So, hey, there's a lot of room to improve. There's a lot of room to go up. And recently we got this from the TSM subreddit. I know I've covered this in another video already, but it does tie into this whole video that Maple has landed in North America. TSM tweeted this out, LAX, TSM Maple has arrived. Time to get to work, and time to get to work it is. I don't know, this was from 6 days ago, so this would have been like May 25th, May 26th, somewhere in there. And the LCS season, I believe, starts June 18th. So, he got here with around 3-4 weeks to get rolling, which is good. Obviously, the whole TSM team was not able to go to Korea for a boot camp or nothing like that, so they haven't got to scrim or practice as an entire team together. And obviously, 3 to 4 weeks is... it's a good amount of time. It's a decent amount of time. It's maybe not ideal. Obviously, you'd like to have as much time as you can get, but summer regular season doesn't really matter all that much. 8 teams are going to make the playoffs. And yeah, 3 to 4 weeks isn't bad. It is what you would normally get, like headed into the spring season or something like that. Now, obviously, in the summer, you're going to be playing against a lot of other teams that have been practicing together and playing together for 4, 5, 6 months at this point. But hey, when you make mid-season roster changes, this is kind of the world you have to live in. And honestly, it's really not that big of a deal. A lot of times teams will make changes in between spring and summer, and then they still end up working out pretty okay. I'm thinking back to 100 Thieves last year, where they made the move to Abadage between spring and summer, and then ended up taking down the title, ended up having a pretty decent showing at Worlds. So even though you are working on a condensed timeline, it doesn't really end up being all that bad that often, as long as it's a good move, as long as the player is good, makes sense for your team, all that stuff. It's also kind of our first look at Maple and TSM gear, so that's kind of cool. But the big thing coming out, and the thing I mainly want to talk about in this video, was this mid-king fan, and people were kind of speculating about, was this Maple's account? Was this not Maple's account? What's exactly going on? Eventually, Dunk took to Reddit and confirmed that this is actually Maple's North American solo queue account, and I know solo queue is something that gets hotly debated. I've talked about this a lot, where I don't really read too much into solo queue. At the end of the day, I think solo queue is a practice environment. I think you should be working on your weaknesses. I think you should be working on champions that you're not 100% comfortable with, that you haven't 100% mastered, and then even the meta champions that you maybe think you have mastered or have played good enough. There is the top pros that would argue, well, hey, there's still people better than you in China, Korea, like however good you think you are. I know there was like memes last year of people, or last split, people saying they didn't want to play their 50th Jinx game of the week or whatever. And it's like, well, are you the best Jinx player in the world? Are you an absolute god at Jinx? Are you popping off every single game as her? Like, no, maybe you need to play that 51st game. Maybe you need to play that 52nd game. Maybe you still have things to work on and things to learn. Now that could be argued. Maybe that's just things you need to work on as a player overall, and they're not champion specific. And I totally get that. But again, at the end of the day, I don't care too much about solo queue KDAs, about solo queue win rates, all that stuff. I think it's cool if you get to rank 1 or get to really high win rate challenger, if you have a nice win rate, if you show a diverse champion pool in solo queue. I think some of that stuff's cool, but I don't read too much into it. But I also get why people think solo queue data is interesting, especially right now in a time where there's no competitive League of Legends being played. We don't really have anything else to go off of. Scrims are not going to be leaked, stuff like that. Champions Queue, I think, actually did start tonight. So I guess when this video goes out, Champions Queue will have started yesterday, but there's not a ton of info and stats on anything like that yet because it hasn't even been the first full day of Champions Queue coming out. So it will be cool to see how Maple does as far as playing in Champions Queue, obviously playing up against all the other pros and the high-level players and all that stuff, and also needing communication and stuff. But as far as his NA solo queue count, obviously North American solo queue, not the highest regarded or anything like that, but he has been very, very good so far. He has played, 45 games. He has 36 wins, 9 losses, an 80% win rate. Obviously at the top, he's playing all different kinds of champions. He has a Kali, Ari, Talia, Victor, Yone, Zoe, and Tryndamere. So that is a very, very diverse array. You have AD, you have AP Assassin, you have, some of your mages like Ari, Talia, Victor, you have a Tryndamere, a Zoe, who's kind of a whole different champion. He's playing a little bit of everything, and overall, just having a ton of success. Obviously, his most played being a Kali, being 10-1 on that pick, which is just crazy. Ari is obviously still a really, really good champion in the meta. Talia seems to be one of the best mid laners coming into the split, and he's showing that he can play all the meta champs. He can play a wide diverse of champions, and I think that's going to be very, very cool. And I do think Maple has a chance to be a really, really good mid laner for TSM. Now, there's obviously going to be some questions. Like, yes, this past split, he was in the LPL, but I think he played 10 games, and I think he got benched a couple weeks in. That's my understanding, at least. So, there's questions and talk about, Jensen sat out all of spring. How's he going to come back in the summer? How good he's going to be? Maple is in kind of a similar boat. He played some games, and yes, he got all the preseason scrims and got some scrims during the season and all that, but once he got benched and once he wasn't playing, I can't imagine he was playing all that many scrims. I have to assume he's in a very, very similar boat to Jensen, where he is going to be coming off a major layoff and going to kind of have to be shaking the rust off and have to get back into the swing of things. Now, again, the good thing for him is that North American mid lane pool is really, really weak right now. I mean, the mid laners we saw in the spring split was maybe one of the weakest mid lane pools in North American history, and that's saying something because we've historically had a lot of weak mid lane pools. Now, I don't think it's actually the weakest, but it's not one of the strongest. It was pretty rough this past split, so Maple will have definitely some chances to do some things there. Like I said, I do think he's going to be improvement over Kaido. I think that's going to be a very, very good thing for TSM. And, there was a lot of talk, when Bjergsen was first coming back about he was struggling in Korean solo queue. He was sucking. People were worried. People were concerned. He didn't have good win rates. He was getting stuck in whatever elo. That doesn't seem to be an issue for Maple. So if you were worried about Bjergsen solo queue and saying that solo queue matters and saying that he was sucking, well, you can say, the opposite about Maple. You see here a 6-game win streak. He's just absolutely popping off. A lot of these games are master, grandmaster, that type of games. But hey, he's on a fresh ride account in North America. He's got to get it climbed up. So it'll be interesting to see how this goes. Overall, I am keeping some tempered expectations for Maple. He's definitely a couple years or a couple splits removed from his prime, but that doesn't mean he can't come back. That doesn't mean he can't bounce back. That doesn't mean that North America, TSM, whatever, can't be kind of a reinvigoration for him. But again, in the LPL, he was not overly successful. He wasn't overly insane. It doesn't seem like he was playing on the best team in the world, and obviously that can make you play worse or whatever. But it's not like he's coming fresh off his peak performance in this past spring split and then coming over to TSM. It's kind of like, he didn't really do that well, and he needs a team. TSM didn't really do that well. They need a mid laner. They're looking for somebody cheap but good. He's good and willing to sign for cheap. We'll have to see how this goes. But overall, I think this is pretty exciting news. I think this is pretty fun. This is pretty interesting. Overall, I like the move of bringing in Maple way more than I like the move of bringing in the random LDL player in Kaido, who is unlikely to pan out all that often and then is unlikely to stick around all that often. And I don't really know if Maple's the mid laner of the future for them, but I think this is a calculated risk. Again, for a bargain that I think could make some sense for TSM. And so far, so good. Like I said, I'm going to be very, very interested to see how Maple does in Champions Queue leading up, and then I'm going to be very, very interested to see how he does this split. There are some decent mid laners in North America now with obviously Bjergsen and Abadage. Bjergsen's going to be another split back into his competitive career. Hopefully he continues to ramp up. Jensen's going to be back. That's going to be fun. And overall, the mid lane pool should be a little bit stronger this split, which should hopefully raise the level of competition and the level of North American League of Legends overall, and hopefully help us do even better at Worlds. Regardless of whether TSM's making Worlds or anything like that, still them being a better team with better players is going to help everyone improve over the course of the year. So far, it looks like Maple's grinding solo queue. He's having some success. Will he be able to transfer that success over into the LCS? I don't know, but just in case you guys wanted his solo queue accounts or data or anything like that, or you like following these things, there you go. But that's pretty much it for this video today, guys. Let me drop a like if you did enjoy it. I would appreciate that so much. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think about all this. Do you think this is a good sign for Maple? Bad sign? Doesn't really matter? I don't know. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions. Subscribe, stay up to date on all my latest content. Hopefully catch you guys in the next one. But until then, peace.